Hello, friends. This is Reverend Paul Jansen from United Reformed Church in Somerville, New Jersey, recording this week for the second weekend in Lent, which in the year 2022 lands on March 13th. Our scripture reading this week is going to be from 1 Corinthians, the first chapter, verses 18 through 25. For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to those of us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discernment of the discerning I will thwart. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of this world? For since in the wisdom of God the world did not know God through wisdom, God decided through the foolishness of our proclamation to save those who believe. For Jews demand signs, and Greeks demand wisdom, but we proclaim Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those who are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. For God's foolishness is wiser than human wisdom, and God's weakness is stronger than human strength. Well, friends, today, instead of asking you to bring something that we would give away, we're in the season when we're practicing almsgiving as a congregation. We are going to give you something to give away. I know we can't do this digitally or over the internet or via YouTube, but that's what's happening in worship on Sunday. We're giving you each a small cross. When you get the opportunity, think of someone in your life who may need it. Now, it's not a charm. This isn't a superstition. It won't guarantee a home free of dust bunnies or a life free of troubles. It's a sign of, well, that turns out to be a good place to stop. The cross is a sign of what exactly? If you receive our church's emails, this week's Wednesday Musings Weekly, I think we call it, or Weekly Musings Wednesday, I always forget how it goes. You saw that I asked you about what the cross means to you. There's all kinds of possibilities. Peace, love, joy, symbol of Christianity, sign of hope, sign of God. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you might use to say this is essentially what the cross means to me. Well, I hope that for those who are with us on Sunday, I hope that they'll take the little crosses with them and give them away to somebody else as a sign of whatever the cross means to them, that they will open their hearts a bit to someone else and say, this is a gift to you. It resembles whatever to me, and I'm giving it to you. If you're not quite sure what the cross means to you, allow me a few moments to draw out some of the Bible's insights on the cross. First, well, before we get into that, can we all agree how odd it is that we sing songs about the cross? Whether we're singing Lift High the Cross, or When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, or Beneath the Cross of Jesus, or a whole host of other songs, The Old Rugged Cross, we're singing about an executioner's tool of stripping God-given breath from another human being, right? It's a strange symbol for a religion. Jews have the Star of David, the sign of a great historic figure. Muslims sew the crescent and the star on their flags, the display of the two great lights in the sky. Buddhists show the lovely lotus whose flower grows up from a murky swamp. Hindus depict the Aum, the vibration they believe is at the heart of all creation. And we Christians, we venerate the most gruesome form of torture and punishment that the Roman government could dream up to exterminate anyone who dared to threaten their power. When you survey the wondrous cross, you're looking at an electric chair, a firing squad, a lethal injection, a guillotine, a noose. And yet we do sing about the cross. We do take it to heart as the most important sign of our devotion to Jesus. In our practice, whether it's a matter of hanging a cross on a wall at home or around our necks on a piece of jewelry or having it tattooed on our arm or keeping one in the front of the church, we say publicly that the cross is somehow the shape of our relationship with God. So then to the scriptures, I'll give you 3 P's so that you can remember them later. What does the cross mean? Why does it mean so much to us? Because it tells us of the presence of God, the power of God, and the peace of God. The presence of God. Well, here's something on which all 4 Gospels agree. Jesus was crucified at a place called Golgotha, the place of the skull. If you're wondering where Calvary comes in, Calvary is just the Latin translation of the word place of the skull, or skull, actually. The point is that Jesus was crucified in a place on earth, a definable location that everyone apparently knew at the time. Like you can find our church at 100 West Main Street in Somerville, New Jersey. Here's why that matters. What happened on Golgotha was more than just 3 guys being executed by the Roman Empire. What happened there was a revolution, a new reality, a new way of defining what is real, an earth-shattering way of being that says that love is before all things, that forgiveness is the essence of healthy human relationships, that we are free from thuggery that put Jesus on the cross, whether it's manifest these days on the streets or in the halls of government or in a corporate boardroom. And this thing that God did on the cross, it happened here. It happened here, not off on a Mount Olympus somewhere or up in the clouds, but here on this soil. God is present because the cross was planted here. And the crust of the earth on which we walk every blessed day. God is present here. At ShopRite and in your school building and in the hospital and on your living room couch, and yes, beyond this world, and yes, deep in the heart of you. The word of the cross is the presence of God, not the distance of God, but the presence. Well, lest you think that's an entirely rosy scenario, I remind you that the word of the cross is the power of God. That's what the Apostle Paul wrote in today's lesson, that while Gentiles want wisdom from God and Jews demand signs, the word of the cross is the power of God, and that power puts us on our knees. You know the old gospel song, "Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble." You know the song. Of course, well, why wouldn't you tremble? It's what it did with Jesus' best friends. When they figured out what was going to happen after Jesus got arrested, they all forsook him and fled, so great was their trembling. It says Matthew about the events of that Friday in which Christ was crucified. The curtain of the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom, and the earth shook, and the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. This is the manifestation of the power of God, not just another ordinary afternoon in provincial Judah. We Protestants have had most of the trembling kind of knocked out of us. We come as we are, and we saunter into the sanctuary, and we chit-chat with friends and family. I can't help but wonder whether Annie Dillard was right when she wrote, On the whole, I do not find Christians outside of the catacombs sufficiently sensible of their conditions. Does anyone have the foggiest idea what sort of power we so blithely invoke? Or, as I suspect, does no one believe a word of it? The churches are children playing on the floor with their chemistry sets, mixing up a batch of TNT to kill a Sunday morning. It is madness to wear ladies' straw hats and velvet hats to church. We should all be wearing crash helmets. Ushers should issue life preservers and signal flares. They should lash us to our pews, for the sleeping God may wake someday and take offense. Or the waking God may draw us out to where we can never return. The word of the cross. The word of the cross is the power of God, the power to bless, yes, and the power to destroy, the power to send a 40-day and night flood, the power to send fire on the mountain, the power to tumble the walls of Jericho, the power to raise a smelly Lazarus from the dead, the power to turn temple tables, and the power to vanquish all the power of death in the person of one vulnerable flesh and bones man hanging from a tree. Surely the fear of God is a more apt description of where we stand with our Creator than chumminess with the Almighty. We do well to tremble at the word of the cross, the power of God. But the word of the cross is a word of peace as well, right? I think I might know where you're going when I say that the word of the cross is a word of peace, more or less in the direction of, well, everything's going to be okay because Easter Sunday came after Good Friday and you know, he lives within my heart. In other words, everything that Jesus did, he did so that I could feel the peace that passes understanding rising from my belly into song. That's not the peace I'm talking about. I mean, there is that, and it's truly wonderful, but remember what Paul said about the cross in his letter to the church in Ephesus. Christ is our peace. In his flesh he has made Jew and Gentile into one and has broken down the dividing wall between us. He has created in himself one new humanity in place of the two, thus making peace. And he reconciled both groups to God in one body through the cross. What did Christ do on the cross? Reconciled Jew and Gentile. Broke down the wall that was dividing society in two incompatible parties. That's peace of a social nature. Peace that stops parents from teaching their children about how bad those other children are. That's peace that changes conversations in the carpenter's shop. That's a word of the cross that doesn't just bless our hearts. It messes with our minds. I wonder if we have the imagination to think that the word of the cross is more important. It's more important than if somebody is a Democrat or Republican or independent or whatever. Do we dare to believe that the word of the cross outranks our differences over abortion or human sexuality? Can we go so far as to believe that the word of the cross even confounds our notion that Christians are the only ones who get to go to heaven someday? How many dividing walls can we stand to be torn down until we stand before God just as we are? Are we willing for the word of the cross to be a word of peace? Are we willing to stand before God side by side with that jerk who spoke at the town council meeting? Or next to that so-and-so who actually voted for such and such? Are we willing for the cross to be of such profound peace that we stand cheek by jowl with those Indian folks who take over the parks to play cricket? Are we willing for God to provide us so much peace that we can stand comfortably hand in hand with that person who looks like a woman but has a deep voice like a man. How much peace? How much peace will we allow the cross to produce in our lives? The word of the cross is God's presence, not our status. God's power, not our strength. God's peace, not our entitlement. In other words, the word of the cross is good news. It's gospel because God is at work in it. The God who loved so much as to become flesh and dwell with us. The God whose power is made perfect in our weakness. The God who reconciled the whole world to himself, the whole world to himself in Christ. So, for those who are with us on Sunday, take a cross home with you. Give it away. If you've got a little one somewhere, you're out there in cyber world, find one and give one away as a sign of presence or power or peace, or if you like, hope, love, joy, patience, kindness, Christianity, whatever. Write a word on it if you'd like. Or if you're not sure what to say, just say, I'm giving this to you because it means a lot to me, and because you mean a lot to me, and I just wanted you to have it. And let that be that. Because that too is a word of the cross. And that's all the words I have for you this week. I pray that God will bless you today and tomorrow and every day after that. Peace be with you now and always. Catch you next week.